Welcome back, everybody. So I got a P0302 code again. So what happened was the vehicle was idling really bad again, and I hooked up my scan tool and it came up P0302. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? I just replaced the spark plugs. I wasn't in any particular order when I put the ignition coils back. So I start looking around the engine. I see nothing obvious. My coils are on nice and tight. They're all plugged in. Come back here. There's nothing blatantly obvious with the fuel injectors. So I'm like, okay, it's a long shot at this point, but I'll try switching my coils around. So with this engine, this is your cylinder lineup. I took the ignition coil from cylinder 2 and swapped it with cylinder 3. I ended up resetting the codes and starting from scratch because in the midst of everything, I was unplugging cylinder 2 and cylinder 3 because I knew I was going to switch them for the test. But another thing you can do, just to kind of check it out, if you have a P0302 code, for instance, and cylinder number 2 is having problems, you can unplug this ignition coil and you'll notice a little bit of power loss, but not a whole lot. Where if you unplug a cylinder that's working, you can pretty much hear that engine struggling to stay alive at that point. So that's what I was doing. I unplugged cylinder number 2 and I noticed a little bit of power loss. And then I unplugged cylinder number 3 and I noticed it was really having problems. So after I switch them, I try that test again. I unplug cylinder number 3, notice a little bit of power loss, unplug cylinder number 2, and same thing. Engine's really sputtering and sounding bad. So at this point, I already have a general idea of what it is, but now the vehicle's throwing up a P300 code because it thinks it's got multiple cylinder misfires. So I reset all the codes, let it idle for about 15 minutes, and sure enough, now it's reading P0303, so we know it's a bad coil. Now this is the part where most YouTubers would replace the bad coil, call it a day, go back to sipping lemonade, right? But I'm going to give you a breakdown of engine misfire codes. Plus, I still got to get the part. I was out here working with a scratchy throat. My wife brought home a COVID test, and come to find out I had COVID. So I'm kind of just now getting everything back together. For the record, I don't still have COVID. I wouldn't be out here if I did, but I am still kind of coughing here and there a little bit, and I do still get thirsty really easily. So with engine misfires, you'll start with P0300, which is multiple engine misfires, and then anything pertaining to a specific cylinder will start at P0301 and go all the way up to P0312, depending on the size of your engine. So depending on which cylinder is having problems, your codes will show accordingly. All right, so here we are with the new ignition coil. I actually pulled this out of a Scion XB. We'll just go ahead and unplug our ignition coil. Then, using a 10mm socket, loosen it up. Then the ignition coil kind of has this rubber grommet. It's a little bit thicker on the one from the Scion XB versus the Highlander, so we'll just go ahead and swap these. Then place it in. Tighten it in place. Make sure you plug it in. And now the moment of truth. And perfect. Engine definitely sounds better. I'm running the air conditioning and everything. It's even getting up to operating temperature, so we'll just let this sit for a few minutes. So with your ignition coil, what they basically do is they convert the low voltage from your battery to high voltage to run the engine. Depending on how old your car is, they either plug in to the ECU, which is the case here, or a distributor cap. Well, sometimes they go bad, and that's what causes your codes. And we are up to operating temperature. I'm going to go grab my scan tool real quick. Okay, so I still have the yellow warning light, but nothing under stored codes, and under pending codes, still got the P0302, but it's been running for a few minutes now, and it's been running fine. So what we will do is take it on a little test drive. I know this is where some guys would just erase the codes, but what we'll do is take it on a little test drive, because that's part of it anyways, and then see what it looks like when we get back. And we're back. The P0303 code cleared itself out. Looking pretty good. Even Roxy's happy. Isn't that right? Now it just needs a shower, and after that we're set. I'll do that when it's not 104 outside though. And don't forget, new videos every Sunday. Like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I will see you guys next week.